Hello and welcome back. It's been another glorious week, which means while some things are going over, literally, others are just absolutely blooming. I just had to get this view back in again. Okay, so we're into May now and there's so many options now for sowing seeds. There's a few that we need to sow if we want to get anything this year. And I've got quite a few different alternatives as well, the likes of Blue Kuri, Green Kuri, toad beetroot, and that's just to name a few. So let's go and harvest some radishes and I'll start discussing various ones. Right, so I was actually going to be harvesting from this radish bed. This is just a bonus crop. Now what's going to happen is as soon as these come out, the kohlrabi is going to go in, and then after that is going to be leeks. Now this is the white icicle, which I've just picked from here, and there's some big sizes there. Now that's what you could start sowing now. It's a real good sized radish, and you got the hailstones and the French breakfast. So what I'm going to do is hold off on harvesting these just right now because I'm going to be editing this video tonight. I thought I can't start fermenting or picking these and cleaning them up straight away, so instead of harvesting them just for the video, I'm going to harvest them probably in the next couple of days, because that certainly is a nice sized radish to harvest. Like you say, you could be certainly sowing these right now. And then on what you can sow right now, I've got a whole list, and it's down here because there's so many different weird names I've got to remember. So one of them is pumpkin and squash season right now for sowing. Now I got my seeds off from Jane's Growing Garden, and the red curry and blue banana. But if you have so many different alternatives out there right now, so much choice. But if you're looking for an alternative to the red curry, then there's the blue curry and the green curry. The green curry is not as trailing as the other two, and the blue curry is here's a fun fact that apparently was originally taken to Japan in the 1500s by the Portuguese, and they brought it from South Africa. So there's my first fun fact. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean these up and munch on these, and then go into the greenhouse where I've got quite a few tasks I want to do. What I'll do is I'll start talking about the rest of the different seeds you can sow while I'm doing that. Right, it's getting quite full in here, but I've got plenty more seeds to start growing. Now I am going to start splitting this out, this shop bought basil, but before I get my hands wet, I thought I'd go on to the butter beans. So I will come to the toad beetroot and the Gniff carrot, if that's pronounced right. And I do a caveat, if I'm pronouncing these wrong, I apologise, because that's why I've got this list. Right, so beans. Now, if you're struggling to get Greek gigantes beans to sow, these are my Greek gigantes from last year, and these are from a health food shop. Now, they're, I would say, Greek gigante beans. They're very large, so you could certainly go to a health food shop and see if you can pick up any of the dried beans. And that's the same for the calendula. Is it calendula? I'll put that on the screen down below. Now with the butter beans, I use the wet paper towel method, and you really do need to soak the beans probably beforehand and keep that wet paper towel soaked, because they really do swell up and take up a lot of water. Now on beans, if you are struggling for space, there's plenty of dwarf varieties out there, especially for the French beans. I've got 6 varieties going at the moment, and this is probably one of our favourites, is the Purple Queen. That will climb to probably about that height if you let it. It will flop over, but that's quite productive. But I've got quite a lot of dwarf French beans which I'll plant in any spare spaces in the beds, and they do become quite productive. But another one that I may sow, I haven't got the seed yet. I'm going to speak to Sarah, see whether we get it, is edamame, the soya bean. Now that gets to around about 2 foot now, and they say just grow it like you do a dwarf French bean. And it's supposed to be quite productive. You get 3 beans per each pod, but you get quite a lot of pods per each plant. So I may grow that because we use that quite a lot in stir fries. It's quite a meaty bean. And also on dwarf beans, you know, there's one of the favourites, isn't it, is Belotti bean, you know, for the climbing. Well, you can also get a dwarf version. I've still got some spare seeds from a couple of years back. I'm going to see if I can, they will germinate. And again, they're going to get put into any of the spare spaces in the beds, just to fill in the gaps. Now, they're not as productive as the climbing ones, but you can get quite a few into that space. It's the same with the French beans. Again, I use these as an example. I've got 3 per each pot, and I'm still going to do the 150 spacing. That seemed to work well for me last year. Now I know they say just one spacing of 150, but it worked well for me, and they sort of support each other as well. Right, I'm going to clear these out the way, and we'll start splitting that up and keep on going through this list. Right, so this is what I like to do with my basils, is split them up. A couple of years back I split these up into separate plants for each one. Now I soak it, and this has been soaking for the last couple of days, and I find it a lot easier to split up the plants then. And I think I'll just go with 4 quarters. Right, so while I've done that, what are we on to next? So, toad beetroot. Now, it's a good time now to start sowing the beetroot. I've already got various rows in for the summer crops. But also, if I want to start storing the winter crops, then I'm going to be sowing the cylindra, which is a cylindrical beetroot. And they do get to quite about that big if you're lucky. But there's also a new one which I've also ordered the seeds for, and that's the toad beetroot. The reason why it's called toad is because it's a bit like a carrot, and it's got a really rough bark. I'm going to say bark rather than just normal skin. And for a fun fact, and this is the second fun fact, if I get to 3, maybe you may deserve a like for that, is it's supposed to be the oldest beetroot in existence still. It's supposed to be 1,000 years old. But another fact is that it's also very highly sought after as a gourmet beetroot. So I'm going to grow that in one of these beds and see if we get some really nice conical carrot-shaped beetroots. Now, the skin is pretty thick on it, so you don't get as much of beetroot as you thought when you prep it for cooking. But what it also is means that it's very good for storing. And what they say in the storing wise is that it can still, if you store it in sand, dry sand, it will still keep its exactly near enough the same flavour and firmness as what it was when it was harvested. So that's something exciting I'm going to enjoy doing next year or this year. So I'm quite looking forward to that one. Right, so next on the list is carrots. Now I've got quite a few different sowns already in there. I've got 3 varieties. I've got 2 Sean Manchester table. I've completely forgotten what mine's gone blank what the other one is. But another one I'm looking at trying is, I'm going to say it's Gniff. It's Gniff. Now this is a Sweden variety, Switzerland variety. It's purple on the outside, but then it's white, and you may get another purple ring and then a white core. Now that again is a slow one to grow. What it also is a very good storer, again in sand. So I may get some seed for that, so that I can actually store it over winter if if any germinate, and if I get a good harvest, I may store them in the sand. Right, I've just filled that up with water just so it doesn't dry out. I will put that on in a bit. Back to the list. Okay, so May is the first time for chicory. You can start sowing that, and it's the same for purple sprout and broccoli. Right now I haven't got the space. I may try the chicory a little bit later on, but you can start it now. And the same with the purple sprout and broccoli. There's quite a big window. You got May, June, possibly going into July. Because that's such a slow burner of a plant, I'm probably going to do that as late as possible. But if you really want to do it now, then I would also think about putting the collars on. Last year we got a cabbage root fly, and that devoured quite a lot of our purple sprouts and broccoli. So we'll put the collars on when I do it. Because we're going to be standing around for so long, then it may get hit by the cabbage root fly again. Right, what else? Fennel bulbs. Now I know fennel bulbs aren't usually sown until probably later June, but Real Seeds does have an early version called, I'm going to put this down on the screen, Mantovano, and that was probably an early version which you can actually sow now. And then coming on to herbs, again I started looking around different herbs that we could actually sow as well, just because I actually like the flowers, and this one would be a flower version that you could do, and that's human. So obviously he's got to get to flower stage and then produce the seeds. So that one I hadn't, when I was doing my research, I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, you can sow that. But what I will be also doing on the herbs is basil lime. Now there's so many different varieties of basil out there. Now we find basil lime really good for useful for cooking, especially in Thai cooking. You got the lime flavour, but then the basil as well. Now I don't have much luck with spring onions. I just get poor germination. But these are, there's another version of it as well. These are the white star, and that's a salad onion. Now this is a real good one. I've got a clump there of 6 or 7. Now what I can do is take out the early versions as a spring onion, allow them to grow further on, and then get a nice sized salad onion. But if I really want to leave one in the ground, then it'll go to a full-size onion, and its part is really good for storage. So this one is a 3-in-1 all-rounder, and that's white star. So that's I'm basically ditching the spring onions for this white star and see how I go this year with those. Now before I go on to some of the flowers, I've got some nice varieties there which the cosmos I'm a little bit late on, but let's come to those in a minute. Is cabbages, the autumn cabbages, now the likes of the calabos. This is probably the last chance of sowing it now for that autumn harvest. Right, sunflower season, that's what it is. Now again, I have a limited amount of space, and this is what I've got to work with, but I don't want to miss out on the sunflowers. And there's quite a few different varieties of dwarf sunflowers. Now these only get to 2 foot. Now this one's called Magic Roundabout, but I think there's one called Mars, and there's various other different varieties that only get to 2 foot, but they're quite a bushy plant as well. Now with normal sunflowers, apparently you can actually pinch out and you get more of a bushy version, but these you don't pinch out. So I'm really looking forward, and I do desperately need to start sowing these. And again, calendula, this is something I've never grown. Everybody seems to grow the orange version, but this one is Snow Princess, and apparently you get to a, what's it say? You get a 3-inch head on it, but it's also obviously a white version. So that's something else I'm going to look forward to, and again using that, and I will be using that for the soaps and healing properties of it, but also it's supposed to be a real good cut flower as well. And then I've got plenty of the double click cosmoses, which I am late on sowing, and it is going to be your last chance. But this does say up to May for them. And I've got double click pink as well. And then sweetcorn. I'm late on that, but it is May, and this is, you know, obviously May sowing. This is going to be your last chance for doing it. Now, I've got a question on this. Do you soak and chit yours, or do you just put 2 seeds in per each station? I think I may try chitting them first. But at the same time, I've also got to start finishing off the bed that they're going to go into. And I'm also already got the Red Kuri. Now, I did actually chit these. The Red Kuri is coming up. And so the blue banana hasn't yet come up, but the Red Kuri is coming up, and I still haven't done the bed. So that's one of the things I desperately need to start looking at. So the start of May is also the last chance to sow poppies, and I've got a couple of seeds left in here, so that's what I'm going to give those a go. They're bread seed poppy and white seed. So I never had any success with those last time, so I'm going to give those a go and see what we get. I think I sowed them a little bit too late, and the germination just didn't happen. But saying that, it's so nice with this heat that we've got in here and outside now that we can start sowing directly into the beds. The carrots and the parsnips have come up, so I'm quite pleased with that. Right, that was a lot of whittering along there, and like I say, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again.